We have to say also that Hamas is not ISIS. Hamas is not a terrorist organization. Hamas is a part of the liberation movement of Palestine.
Hello and welcome to Overlap, brought to you by Wave Media. Today we have two distinguished guests from Palestine. We have first with us Ms. Awa Abushash, researcher and co-founder of the Besieged Truth Initiative, and we have Dr. Akel, the coordinator of international relations of the Palestine People's Party and the coordinator of World Peace Council for the MENA region. Welcome. And first of all, I would like to know, where are you based in Palestine? Are you affected by the current tension and conflict?
Yeah, I am in Ramallah, West Bank. West Bank is not Gaza, as you know. Palestine is now divided in three pieces. There is West Bank, there is Gaza Strip, and there is the Palestinians inside Israel. And the three parts are a target of Israeli aggression. In West Bank, where we are, also there is an Israeli aggression every day, every night.
Yes, I live in Ramallah, also in West Bank, but now I forced to be in Berlin because when the aggression started, they closed actually the borders and they prevented the people to go back.
Please educate us. I mean, we know West Bank and we know the Gaza Strip. We know these two territories are disconnected. And are there any connections between the people, the Palestinian people from the two places?
I think that before starting answering the questions, first we would like to thank you for this opportunity to meet you and to have this fruitful discussion, hoping that it will help the public opinion to understand what's going on in Palestine. And because of that, I want to go back in a brief history about the Palestinian issue, which is very important. The Palestinian problem started from the beginning, the first beginning of the last century, after the First World War, by Britain to give a promise to establish a Jewish state in Palestine by the so-called Balfour Declaration, which declared that Britain will help establishing an Israeli and Jewish state in Palestine. And after the war, Palestine was under Britain mandate, and they were taking all actions to help the Jewish groups, especially the gangs in Palestine, to control cities, to control the land. And there was conflicts between Palestinians and settlers then all these times until 1947, when the United Nations issued the Resolution 181, divided Palestine into states, Palestinian and Israel. Israel was established in 1948, but Palestine is prevented by Israel, Britain, and some marionette Arab regimes then. Israel, after that, committed a lot of massacres against Palestinian people. The settlers are attacking Palestinians in everyday basis. And because of all these conditions, 7th of October, some kind of reaction by the Palestinian liberation movement with Hamas to start this action against Israel, 7th of October. By the way, we have to say also that Hamas is not ISIS. Hamas is not a terrorist organization. Hamas is a part of the liberation movement of Palestine, aiming to end this occupation, to end the siege of Gaza, and to give the Palestinians the right of self-determination and establishing a Palestinian state. Now, as you know, geographically, Gaza is divided from West Bank by Israeli territories. There is the so-called Green Line, which is separating West Bank from Israel, from the Palestinians inside Israel, which means now any person in West Bank cannot go to Gaza and cannot go to Israel. And any person from Gaza cannot go out of Gaza. Gaza is besieged from all sides, from the sea, from the Israeli side, and there is only one passage through Egyptian borders through Rafah. And because of that, we are not in position to go to Gaza or to have any help to Gaza.
Right. Thank you for the introduction to the very complicated historical background of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now turning to Arwa. Before this conflict, I believe Israel has already separated Gaza from the West Bank. Are you able to learn the current situation on the ground in the Gaza Strip?
We need special permission from Israelis to go there, which is almost impossible. So we cannot learn by being there, but we have relatives, we have comrades, we have friends there. Israel keep cutting electricity, keep cutting internet from the people there. And they actually bombing everything. Every live thing in Gaza is under the bombardment of Israel. Also, Israel keep cutting off food, water, fuel, and also medications. And now a real catastrophe, a real humanitarian catastrophe. There is no water now. Yesterday, I read a report said that people in Gaza, they only have 3 liters of water for the person, for drinking, for washing, for everything, while the normal person needs 100 liters.
100 liters.
At least, yeah. So the people in Gaza only have 3 liters, which is really a crisis. The health situation also is very hard. The hospitals, first, many hospitals now stopped from working. Around 20 hospitals stopped from working because the lack of fuel. Hospitals are full of injuries. Some people actually they live to be die without treating because there is no capacity for the hospitals to treat people. So the situation is really catastrophic. We are about a famine in Gaza Strip. They want people to suffer, so they force them to leave Gaza Strip.
Yes, thank you. As you are following the situation from 7th October until now, Israel started bombing Gaza from the second day, from 8th of October, with one aim. Israel is aiming to force Palestinians to be transferred to Egypt. Israel wanted Gaza empty of Palestinians. But because of the position of Egypt as refusing to receive Palestinians, and from West Bank also, there was the same target of Israel to force Palestinians to be refugees again in Jordan, and Jordan is refusing. Israel is committing a mass destruction and genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. As they said from the beginning of the conflict, that it is a land without people for people without land. They want Palestine without Palestinians, and this is the main target of Israelis. Unfortunately, this war and this genocide, this catastrophe is backed by United States. United States, from the first moment of this aggression, started to give support to Israel in all aspects. In United Nations, they prevented any decision for ceasefire by helping Israel by weapons. They give Israel every kind of weapons for mass destruction in Gaza. From the other side, United States brought plane carrier submarines and warships to the Mediterranean to support Israel, and they are threatening any other side in the region to help Palestinians. They are opposing any kind of ceasefire, even for 1 or 2 days, to enter a humanitarian aid to Gaza. We can say that this war is an war with the full participation of United States. We saw also from the first days that the majority of the leaders of European Union and NATO running to come to Israel to express their support to Israel, saying that Israel has the right to defend itself. While they are seeing that Israel an aggressor, Israel is an occupation force, And the General Secretary of UN said that, or some official from Russia says that occupying forces has no right for self-defense. They are an occupying forces. The people under occupation has the right for self-defense and for resistance with any kind and with any means.
Really, sorry to hear that. I mean, we have been following this in China since the beginning, and I have personally done 3 episodes on my program regarding the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And now I'm very curious to know from the Palestinian perspective, to learn from you. In a Palestinian national authority, Hamas is elected by the Palestinian people, and it has more than 70 seats in the Congress, right? Is that right? And then Fatah has about 40 seats or so, right?
Yes, we can say that the latest elections in 2006, Hamas won the elections because we had mixed electoral system, and because of this system, Hamas won, and they have a majority in the Palestinian Legislative Council, and they formed a government after the election. But the West didn't recognize the election, didn't recognize Hamas government, and then they asked for Palestinian government of unity government. Also, with the participation of Hamas, they didn't accept, and then Hamas was and Gaza was isolated, blocked, sieged by Israeli forces with the support and help from the Western countries, and especially from United States, with the silence of a lot of Arab countries. During this time, Israel was trying, with the support of United States, to create a new coalition, saying that the main problem in the Middle East is not Israeli occupation, the Palestinian issue, but a threat from Iran. And they were trying to create a coalition between Israel and some Arab countries against Iran. But one moment, as you remember, China played a very positive role in making relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran and achieving an agreement for normalization. They opened the embassies in Tehran and Riyadh, and this kind of coalition and the so-called NATO, Arabic NATO in the Middle East against Iran failed, and because of that, United States and Israel, as a result of a reaction of these developments, they don't like the role of China in the Middle East, especially in the economical aspect, where they have good relations with many of Arab countries, and the road and the belt going to the Middle East. As you remember, last month in the meeting of 20s, they started a new road between India and the Middle East through Saudi Arabia, and it was planned through Israel and concretely through the north of Gaza. And because of that, Americans are now helping Israel, supporting to destroy Gaza. May they can succeed to renew these plans. Also, we appreciate the position of China and for the solution of the Palestinian issue. President Xi Jinping had an initiative from his side for the solution, but unfortunately, Israel and United States refused this plan.
It is genocide indeed. And Ms. Awa, would like to hear from you, because I want to hear from a woman's point of view. It must be extra hard for you to see Israeli, how they committed atrocity against women and children throughout Palestine, in the West Bank and also in Gaza.
First of all, I think the death toll now is exceeding 10,000 people, Palestinian people. 70% of them actually are women and children. So the main targets of Israeli bombardment actually is women and children. Also, you know, for women, there is a special, let's say, needs. For example, there are in Gaza Strip 50,000 pregnant women. And with this situation, it's really, really very hard to them, first of all, to have a safe places for them to get delivered, and also it's hard for them to get the needs that they need as a pregnant woman. Also, water is very important for life of women for many things. It's more important than men. So the situation for Palestinians in general are very hard, but it's more harder for the women, actually.
It's extra sad to hear that, because every man is a woman's son, and this situation is just beyond the imagination of many decent human beings in a global society. And I think that's the case because Israel has always played the PR campaign to their advantage. For example, when you hear the Hamas attack on 7th October, you will see how they hype the brutality on the music festival, how the women among the audience are targeted and affected. However, you don't hear such coverage on the Palestinian plight, how Palestinian women are, like you said, humiliated, tortured, and killed by the Israeli forces.
I can say that for the first day, there was a huge lie from Israeli side showing some pictures, fake pictures and fake news about Hamas attack 7th of October. Netanyahu himself on the phone calling Biden, he said that there is 40 or 50 children with cut heads and tortured and burned, and this was shown later that it was a lie. And because of that, after beginning of the situation became clear, and all these news and pictures from Israeli side was fake, the public opinion waked up and they started to see the real face of new Nazi in Israel, because as you know, in Israeli government now there is a clear fascist elements. Minister of the so-called ethnic security, Ben Gvir, and Minister of Finance, and the latest declaration of one Israeli minister of culture, that they must bomb Gaza with nuclear bomb. They are leading the whole region to a hell of conflict, including the population of Israel itself, which is threatening also the lives of Israelis. If you follow how Israel is treating the Palestinians inside Israel, who are citizens of Israel with Israeli passport and living in Israel from 1947, 48.
Yes, of course, I completely agree with you on that. But looking forward, you have painted the picture of the past and present. But looking forward, what's the future expectation of the Palestinian people? Which solution would you prefer? Is that the common aspiration of the Palestinian people, or just a faction within the Palestinian people, the two-state solution, one-state solution? Which is it?
We believe that there is two sides: Israeli perspective and Israeli plans to have Palestine without Palestinians, and they are pushing Palestinians to go out, to be refugees again in Arab countries around Palestine. Israel is not willing to accept any kind of solution with the presence of Palestinians inside Palestine. And because of that, from 1947, Israel was established, but they refused to allow the establishment of the Palestinian state as the base of the two-state solution from the resolution 181. After that, they occupied the rest of Palestine, aiming to have Palestine without Palestinians again. And they pushed a lot of Palestinians, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, to be refugees again, to go to Jordan, to Syria, to Lebanon. And after that, with the massacres against Palestinians in Lebanon, in Jordan, in Syria, Israel is bombing Syria in everyday base. They don't want peace in the Middle East. And with this attack and with this genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and their behavior in West Bank, we believe that Israel is not willing to have any solution or to allow any kind of Palestinian independence or two-state solution. Until now, the official position of the Palestinian leadership and the international community and the UN resolutions is the two-state solution. But Israel is committing every effort to kill this possibility, especially in West Bank, where the Palestinian state has to be established. West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. Israel is annexating East Jerusalem with Trump to recognize the sovereignty of Israel on Jerusalem and recognizing it as capital of Israel, transferring the embassy to Jerusalem. Israel is refusing any kind of negotiations about Jerusalem. Israel is refusing to negotiate any kind of solution in West Bank by Israeli settlers to control more than 60% of Palestinian land, where the Palestinian state has to be established. We can say that this kind of solution, the two-state solution, which is accepted by the international community and by the Arab League and by the Palestinian official leadership, is killing every day by Israeli behavior, Israeli policy, and Israeli state. And because of that, the main issue now is to stop this massacre, to stop this genocide, and then to start some kind of negotiations for the future of the region, because it is not only Palestine. Israel is occupying Golan from Syria, occupying parts of Lebanon. It is an aggressor in the Middle East, playing a role of imperialist interests in the Middle East, saving their interests, and because of that, they are all supporting this Israeli aggression. First of all, we have to stop this massacre, to stop this genocide, and then on the table, every solution which will be in favor of the interests of Palestinian people, the peoples of the region, and the peoples of Israel can be discussed. But with this aggression, nobody can now talk about the solutions or about the future.
Ms. Howard, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, maybe emphasize, I think we as Palestinians, we made many concessions. We already the indigenous people of Palestine, and we actually, when we signed the Oslo Accord, we give more than 80% of the Palestinian land. We also, the Palestinian Authority, which is Fatah especially, they gave up the armed struggle, and they start to talk about peace struggle since Oslo Accord till now. And the Palestinians actually is, from my opinion and the opinion of many youth, Palestinian youth, actually, we did many concessions in order to achieve peace. But Israel doesn't want peace. Israel in all ways doesn't want peace. Let's say it's not our task to tell what is the solution, because we did as we can to achieve peace. Even we are the victims of this harsh colonization. I think the question now, Palestinians will keep fighting for their rights, for their lands. And we as Palestinians, we want peace. And we showed this in these long years. But Israel doesn't want peace. And they keep lying and lying and lying. And they keep saying that Palestinians don't want peace. On the ground, again, I think what we need now is stop the aggression against the Gazan people, and also against people in West Bank, against people inside Israel, because Israel now also targeting the Palestinian inside Israel, not only the Palestinian in West Bank and Gaza. Palestinian will not stop defending their rights, actually.
Yes, I mean,
I
the
want only to add this, that the expression of Israeli policy was expressed by one Israeli minister who said that Palestinians have three choices: or to be killed, or to go out from Palestine, from Israel, or to accept the occupation. This was an official statement of Israeli Minister of Finance. Netanyahu in the United Nations showed a map with Israel taking a part of Jordan without any mention of Palestine. This is the plans and the imagination of Israeli leadership for the future. No solution with Palestine, no Palestinian state. Palestinians had to be disappeared from the region. This is the Israeli plans for the future, unfortunately.
Well, that's a very bleak future. I think we on our show will definitely call for immediate ceasefire. We will call for the restoration of peace before the relevant party will sit back at the negotiation table.
The history showed that United States and Europe don't care about lives, don't care about human lives.
Exactly.
They showed that in Vietnam, they showed that in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Palestine, in Lebanon, anywhere. Human lives are not important for Israel, for United States, for Britain, and for NATO. Now in Ukraine, they showed the same. They are insisting to continue the war in Ukraine, independent how many Ukrainians will be killed or how many Russians will be killed. And because of that, if they don't be forced to stop this aggression and to ask for immediate ceasefire, they will not do that by their feelings or humanity inside them, which is absent all these decades, unfortunately.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think it's very hypocritical when when the West in general will say, okay, we respect humanity, we respect human rights, and which in fact they only respect their own human rights when it comes to their own race, their own ethnicity, their own religion. It shows time after time that they have utterly no respect for other people, from other faiths, from other nationality. And I think because of this such a strong absolutist take on the religious morality, or so to speak, what they believe to be good must be good, and all the rest of the world is just pure evil. And I think that fundamentalist outlook is the root evil of all things. I think the international order itself is an order that is deeply unjust. Is an order that favors certain people, that those people are more free, more equal, more entitled to rights than all the rest of us, all the rest of the world. And I think it's really funny when you hear renowned international relations scholar Joseph Nye ask you, what is the Global South? It's an empty notion. He said the Global South is an empty notion. And I think that reflects, in a certain sense, that this level of hypocrisy from the West.
This was shown by their reaction on the latest developments in Gaza. They don't care about more than 12,000 people to be killed in Gaza, or 30,000 people to be injured, 5,000 children, women. But if any Israeli settler will feel panic, they will run to Israel to express their solidarity. This is the hypocrisy of the West and the hypocrisy of these countries of United States, Western and the European countries, the NATO countries, and all other followers, marionettes in the world. Because when they put pressure on many countries in United Nations not able to raise their hand to vote for ceasefire, it means what is the real policy of United States and allies in the world, forcing people and countries to follow blindly their crimes and their policies in the international community and in United Nations and so on.
And in this regard, I think also the Western government not only act against the South, I think they also act against their own people, because we saw millions in streets actually supporting Palestine and supporting the ceasefire and to stop the aggression. But still, these governments actually, against the will of their people, they are still supporting Israel by political positions. They talk about democracy all the time and giving people lies about democracy, but they actually violating the democracy even in their countries and against the will of the majority of their people.
Yeah, certainly. But you know what strikes me the most is that how they conflate intentionally, I believe intentionally, with fair and just criticism against Israel with the so-called anti-Semitism, which is hatred for Jews. Whoever criticizes Israel's policy against Palestinian people, the level of harm committed, whether it's in the occupied territory or in Gaza, this atrocity. Whenever you mention that in the West, they will label you as a Jew hater, you're an anti-Semite. And I find that especially distressing, because you can't automatically become racist when you express disapproval of a nation's policy, a state policy that is obvious apartheid policy. And I think that is a very sinister conflation of notions. And it's very important to make it absolutely clear that if you criticize, if you say what Nazi did in the past against the Jews, the Holocaust was wrong, then of course the Israeli government's action against people of Palestine is definitely wrong. You can't just argue for the one side of it and disregard all the others. And I think that is a very important distinction we must draw, especially on the international stage, because a lot of people in the West, they are afraid to speak out for the Palestinian people. They are afraid to be labeled as anti-Semite because it carries such damage to their reputation, social reputation. And I think that's something we must point out.
Yes. I think that we must fight against these ideas, but we have to say that also because of the mass media, which is controlled by them, they are insisting with this and showing that any position against Israel is that. But nobody is talking about their massacres during the history. France killed 1.5 million of Algerians through the liberation movement.
Yes.
United States killed millions of Vietnamese and Cambodians and Laotians in Indochina during the liberation movement. United States killed 500,000 of Iraqis, 500,000 of Afghanis. Israel killed 500,000 of Palestinians from 1948 until now. The media is not talking about that. And because of that, we believe that our struggle also must to be concentrated in this field, in the media, to show the truth and to show the reality, what is going on and what happened in the history and why this conflict is continuing without solution. They are always ready to label any liberation movement as terrorism. They created ISIS and attacking Syria for
Exactly.
13 years because they want to change the regime in Syria.
That's right. Yes.
Putting hundreds of thousands of mercenaries to come from all over the world to Syria to fight against the regime, while changing the regime in every country is a right of their people, not a right of United States or European Union or NATO. This is their policy covered by the media, controlled by them, and I think that a part of our struggle must be there for the media, for showing the truth, for showing the reality and the real history of every conflict in the world, from the beginning of the colonialism in Africa, in Middle East, in Latin America, and in Asia, because this is their black history.
Yes.
History of killing, death, and destruction.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the indigenous people of America, how they wanted the land, but not the people. So they just wiped them out.
There is a similarity between Americans and Israelis. Americans with the indigenous people and Israelis with the Palestinians. They believe and they want the same result. But unfortunately, we hope and we are sure that they will not succeed. They will not succeed. Palestinian people will be here. Palestinian
Yes.
people will stay here, will continue fighting until achieving their rights.
Yes. I think the Chinese people are in a unique position to tell the story because unlike many Western nations, when they had a very dark history with their own Jewish persecution, so their people feel indebted. I mean, they feel guilty toward the Jews, so they are afraid to criticize the government behavior of Israel. Whereas China, we didn't have that history, so we can we can seek truth from facts. So the fact is that Israel had occupied Palestine and oppressed its people, and China is not afraid to speak out against any unjust behavior from a government. I believe we have come to the end of our conversation, and I thank you, sir, and I thank you, Ms. Awa, both for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.